What's up, everybody? We're back. The Handouts Podcast with Carlos Duran.
Hey, what's up?
And then Joseph Guilin. We're here with Mr. Solano today.
Hola, buenas tardes, good evening.
We're back. The Handouts Podcast with Carlos Duran.
Sorry about that. Okay.
All right, we're just here getting into it. Just so we have a little bit of understanding of what this is going to be. If you're going to come in here, thinking that you're going to get all this information, we don't have the answers, right? There's 30 days that's going on right now that the city manager is looking into everything. We want to just give a little bit of a background of how this is all started, because there's a lot of misinformation and people thinking that we're just pulling this out of our butts. And in reality, no, this was not how it was. So I think what we can start off with and where this story leads from is that you guys were working on Rodriguez, right? Finishing it up. And
we finished that, weeks ago.
Yeah.
Well, not finished because we're still waiting up for the amenities, the dividers for the restrooms, and for the roll-up doors.
Yeah.
And we started this project back in December 4th of last year. But the carpenters came, the electricians came and gone, and the community members, we painted Rodriguez, a month ago?
Yeah.
And we're still waiting for the amenities.
Yeah.
Okay.
That is the bathrooms.
The
right?
bathrooms.
And then there was a water pump.
The toilets, the urinals, and the dividers, and the roll-up doors.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that was all happening, right? And I remember you coming to us and saying, hey, we're going to start now getting onto then nosotros.
Yes.
Right? And this is where it leads to everything, because you were talking about how to get the parking area allowed to be open, right? That was one of the first things that you guys were
that was a
get
great
done.
concern, because as we know, here in Calexico, we're limited with the green spaces, and then most of them are basins that the community uses for sports. But we're limited on official parks. But the only park that really has parking lot was Nosotros when it was built. They had an east and a west parking lot. The other parks are limited on the parking space. The basins, they're limited to the parking space because it's only whatever's out there on the side curbs or the sidewalks, okay? Yeah. Because of some years ago, Calexico got a grant through the to the state, and they created, or they're still trying to finish, a walkway out there and embankments on Nosotros Park down that new river. Behind the park.
Yeah.
But because they got that grant and they made a walkway, they closed down, they literally closed down the parking lot for the west side. And when Daniels came in, we got the conversation that we wanted that parking lot open again, because it's a parking lot where we use for the communities when they go out there and play softball. As it is right now, there's not enough space there at the curbs. Parents park and they got to walk 3 blocks, sometimes 4 blocks, to get to the softball field. And but that's another issue. That's another great concern. And then that's another topic there that last week? The mayor literally went out there. The mayor, Diana Niricumbo, went over there and blocked the entrance so they could take pictures of the vehicles that were inside the parking lot. Okay, and then there was coaches and parents trying to come out, and the parents and the coaches had to tell them, get out of the way because we need to go out. But she was there, like taking pictures, like if she was a police officer or a park moderator,
like a traffic
controller or something.
Yeah. So this whole thing started off with this Cordova Park situation. I understand that the city had come to you, and specifically was it Liliana or was it Diana?
No. When they called me the first time they called.
Yeah.
Well, let me go back to last year around October. Mrs. Cunningham was lobbying me to convince me when I was in the Community Service Commission to support her in bringing down those backstops, because apparently some community members didn't want them and they weren't in the original plan. And I says, no, I don't think it's going to work that way. I says, there's a lot of money, a lot of time invested on that. I think it was done properly, and those backstops have been on the plan for years. As I recall, as far as 2015, because I couldn't go further in 2015 on the agendas to get any further information.
Yeah.
And I says, I believe it's done done properly. And they insisted that because they have been paying CFDs and that was something that they didn't want, they wanted them to be removed. So after one of the meetings had adjourned, I approached Mr. Contreras. Mr. Juan Contreras was the city manager back then, and I wanted to have a conversation when Mr. Contreras says, "Hey, Mr. Solano, help me out here." So I started having a conversation with Ms. Cunningham. That was the first time that I ever crossed communication with her.
This was last year.
Yeah, last year, and I'm talking last October, since last October. And I says, "No, not right now, and never." And I says, "I believe that at board level, there's at least 4 commissioners that are not going to approve this." And I says, "You're going the wrong way about it." I says, "You can lobby the city manager, you can lobby the council, but you need to address your concerns to the Community Service Commission. This is how it works. And you bring it up to the board, then we going to have a conversation on that. We will send a resolution or our direction to the council, and the council is going to either vote it up or down."
Yeah.
Okay, it's their discretion.
Yeah.
That's how it works. But I says, I will never support that. And that was it. That was the last time that I had conversations with her. I had about 2-3 conversations with her last year. And I says, no.
Yeah.
And
So we get to the point now that, we have a new council.
Yeah.
Right. In the beginning, and we made also this, not a discovery, but me and my mom were going through the different times that she was talking. And in the beginning, in December, it wasn't really about knocking anything down. The conversation in the beginning was, hey, we're paying CFDs and the park is not finished and we have an incomplete park. Do something about it.
They were upset because there's some other amenities that are supposed to go into that park, okay, like the tennis court, basketball courts, and that's what's their concern. They say, well, you built, the city built backstops there, baseball diamonds, but they didn't install the tennis courts, the basketball courts. And I says, I cannot answer you on that. I says, I don't know what's going on with at city level. I says, regarding that, I told her all I know regarding the backstops. They were done back when David Dale was here, like maybe, 7 years ago. Mm-hmm. And it was because the west side, right there, Legion and Alex Rivera, those fields were supposed to be sold. But David Dale back then stated that they were not going to be sold until those backstops were relocated to Cordova. Back then in 2015, Calexico submitted a service area plan to LAFCO. LAFCO received it in 2015. They made an assessment. They didn't respond to Calexico until 2018, approving moving forward. And based on the direction from previous administration, previous council members, and the approval of LAFCO, they moved forward. And David Dale started the process of the construction out there at Cordova. Then he left. Then Miguel Figueroa comes aboard. He continues. Okay, and then he leaves, and then the next person that gives money or allocates money with the approval of the council is Esperanza Colio. Yeah. Okay, so
that was with ARPA money.
For ARPA and measure funding, okay?
Yeah.
And that's one thing that I would tell community members whenever they ask me questions, and I would tell Ms. Cunningham, I believe that CFD funding was not utilized for those backstops. Mm-hmm. It was only ARPA funding, Measure H, and then, Kimberly Horn, something like that, $175,000.
That's interesting.
Yeah, so all these things is easily findable online.
I found them in the agenda. They're here from 2015. Yeah.
So and Cunningham was explaining that in the beginning. And she was saying that look, they're all in the agendas. So why don't you look at the agendas and see that those backtops were done right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. This was my issue was that. It's easily findable information, but then it plays off of people not knowing.
Here you have the official report from LAFCO.
So this is LAFCO. Where did you find this?
I downloaded it from the internet. Okay. And
on their agenda website.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Okay. So you go to LAFCO for Imperial County, and you look up the agenda minutes for January 1st, 2019.
Yeah. Okay. And it tells you, and it gives you all the areas that they cover, and then right here it gives you all the state regulations that they followed. LAFCO followed all the state regulations, and LAFCO followed all the state regulations, and we know that Esperanza, she was very special.
Yeah.
If it was not in compliance, she wouldn't move forward except the EV
She-
chargers, you know.
She didn't let you pick up a piece of trash. At
No,
the
no,
park
no, no.
because,
She threw the cops on us. Okay,
yeah,
so
yeah.
okay, so you see, there's the guidelines here, you know, from the state regulations, you know. So
Yeah. So it's very, very interesting that whole thing comes about, and then they come to you. a
They call
second
me.
time
They-
after they had gone to Jessica.
yeah,
Right,
They called me at
Jessica, the Little League.
Jessica Perez
coordinator.
Gonzalez. She's the president of the Little League. And Diana Niricumbo, our mayor, called me. It was 3:18.
Oh, this is great. What did she ask you?
She called me, hey, Mr. Solano, hi, how you doing? I says, oh, good. And it says, well, I need for you to get a hold of Ms. Cunningham, and you need to sit down and formulate a plan. You need to draft a plan how to bring those backstops down.
And to clarify, because they also like not to get misinformation, right? They're not destroying them; they're
reallocating them, yeah. And I says, no, why, Diana? And she says, because the residents don't want them there, and they've been paying with CFDs. I says, no, Diana, I think you got your information wrong. I says, those backstops were paid by ARPA funding and Measure H.
And that question was not only given to you; that was asked also to Jessica.
Yeah, but let me concentrate on myself right now.
Okay.
And I says, but let's begin how you're going about it, Diana. I says, it's got to be brought up. As far as I know, it hasn't been brought up at council level. It's got to be brought up at council level for an up or down vote. I says, and even though I says I don't think it's right, because I says, there's so much time, so much money invested. I says we're limited in parks, and you're planning on knocking them down. It doesn't make sense. No, it's a done deal. Yeah. And I says, well, okay. And she says, I hope you don't mind. I gave your phone number to Ms. Cunningham. She's going to be calling you. And I says, okay, well. And so we hanged up. I says, well, it's a done deal. I guess, I'll see what Ms. Cunningham's going to tell me. And I knew what she's going to ask me.
Yeah.
So by then I get on the phone and I tell Pat what's going on. And Pat says, oh, my God, Mr. Solano. I says, yeah. So we had a good conversation, me and Pat. Then we hanged up. And then later on, Ms. Cunningham calls me and she starts telling me what she wants to do. And I says, wait, stop, Ms. Cunningham, with all due respect. I know what you're trying to tell me. And she says, no, I just spoke to the mayor, Diana Niricumbo, and she told me this. Yeah, I know what she told you, but I'll tell you one thing. I told you since last October, I says I would not sponsor this or help you or support you. That was back then and not either right now. I says it goes against my vision and my mission statement. Yeah. You guys need to understand that the reason that we created Calexico Volunteer Alliance, a nonprofit, last October, okay, was to beautify the parks, restructure our parks, because they're depleted. They're in real bad need.
There was a blight.
Yeah. But I says, no, I won't be part of it. And then she says, well, is that your last word? Tu última palabra? I says, yeah, that's my last word. And that was it.
And that was about March, beginning of
March 13. No, March 13.
Okay.
March 13. Yeah.
Because then what then the whole story then changed was that I don't know how this came to be or how they came to then, make this their argument, but they started then to say that Little League has too many fields and soccer doesn't have enough.
11 fields. I don't know where they got their numbers. Okay, they're bad at math. Okay, because literally, officially, there's only 3 Little Leagues fields. That's Rodriguez, okay, right in front of Vincent, and then at the water plant, Alex Rivera and Legion. Those are the 3. And nosotros is softball. So it's 1 softball and 3 Little League.
But remember, the water plant is supposed to be removed.
Yeah. No. Yeah, it's supposed to be removed. But right now, we have 3 official parks. Yeah. Rodriguez, Legion, and Alex Rivera, and Nosotros Park for the softball. Yeah. I don't know where they got the 11 fields. Now, they con at the one at, what is it, at Andrade and 3rd. That's been taken by the soccer for years. Yeah. They play year-round, so it's been allocated year-round. They counted the one on Heber, on Emerson. That belongs to the school district. Yeah. Then they counted the 3 on Rice and Field on Meadows. That field's flooded all the time. Yeah. So we're still missing 2 more. I don't know where they came up with those other 2 more. I says, so.
Yeah. Yeah. So that whole thing happens, right? So then the athletic league, then she gets then involved. Well,
she calls Jessica, and it got to the point to where Jessica had to block her. Okay, because she insisted, and then she started going to her house, and Jessica said, I don't have time for this. She told Mrs. Cunningham, look, you need to pay attention. I'm barely taking over as a president of the league. I'm barely figuring out how to coordinate and organize the teams. I don't have time for this. And then on top of that, when Mrs. Cunningham told me that they were in a hurry because her volunteers didn't want to work in the summer. And I says, oh, wait. I says, this project, if you go ahead, it's probably going to take over. By the time you plan it and coordinate it, it's going to take over a year. I says, you just don't snap your finger and it's a done deal. I says, no, it doesn't work that way. So Jessica told her the same thing. I don't have time right now. We're running the league right now. We're barely starting, and I don't even want to address that. It got to the point to where Jessica told her, quit bothering me. And she insisted. A few weeks ago, she went out there again with Jessica, and Jessica says, what is it that you don't understand? Okay. Then the other thing that Miss Cunningham told me that she was offering it to the league because they didn't want to give it to another city. And I says, why are you going to give it to another city?
Wait, hold on, just so we understand. The backstops.
The backstop, she says, she was offering it to Calexico, okay, to the Little League of Calexico. And I says, I understand that. I says, and she says, well, we're offering it, the first option to Calexico because we don't want to give it to another city. Why would you give it to another city? Because that belongs to us. We paid it with the CFDs. I says, you're wrong. That's taxpayers' money. You can't do that. Let's assume that you do knock them down. There's enough room out there at the water plant. Talk to Saldaña, I says, and you can place them there, and we can figure out whatever is going to happen to that material once you knock it down. But they were planning on giving it to another city because it belongs to them. So I don't know.
That is crazy.
That is crazy.
Yeah. So I don't know how all this got to the point where then now it's soccer versus Little League. For some reason, that turned into that.
Yeah.
Right? I don't know if you remember exactly what had...
I don't know. One of the last meetings that I spoke, I told them we're 47 acres short based on the report from LAFCO from 2018. I says we have a need on green spaces. Let's work together to resolve this. I says we need to sit down because based on LAFCO reports, it stipulates there we're supposed to sit down with the school district and have conversations so we can use those green spaces. I made that conversation. I brought it up, and then I also brought it up a week later at a gathering that I was out there with Victor and Adrian Marquez out there at Aurora. And I spoke to Mr. Arturo Jimenez, and I said, hey, Mr. Jimenez, Arturo Jimenez, I says, before you leave, I would like to kind of get together and have a conversation regarding the green spaces. I know that you're aware based on the direction from LAFCO, so we can supposed to sit down and negotiate the use of the green spaces. Sure, Mr. Solano. He says, yeah. And good thing, as it is right now, I found out that they are in conversation with the school district.
Oh, wow.
Jessica told me that they are They are able to use Willie Moreno, and then the other one over here at Jefferson at Chavez. Kiki Camarena.
So see, there's things already getting
But
done.
you see, the school district has 43 acres of green spaces that we could use. Okay, there was joint use years ago. Somehow the communication between the school district and the city deteriorated. Okay, LAFCO direction is get back on track and start utilizing those parks. And I understand it's got to be tiered in. Tier 1 would be practice of sports games through the school district. If they're not using the fields, tier 2 would be then us, the Little League. And it should be that way.
Especially because these kids have gone to school here, and I mean,
it's the same. Most of them are the same kids that use that play at the school, are the same community members that play sports here in Calexico. It's the same community. We're interacted.
And so that's where it irks me because we're then now trying to say defend the Little League, being like hey, we don't got that many parks either. You guys are in the same situation as we as soccer is, right? So that whole thing then transpires. We go into the next information that we research, and in 2022. Was it when Miss Estrada came with her plan to build a second park on the south end of
That's Cordova? What kind of messed up everything. She wanted to squeeze that second part soccer field.
Yeah. Right? So that was removing then the the basketball courts, the tennis courts,
the other amenities.
All of that, just so you can get a nice big.
But we had a conversation with Mrs. Stada, and she's willing to work together. So I think we're going to work together. She says she's willing to work together. So I do believe she will want to work together.
But Solano, the damage has already been done.
Oh no, it's done. No, yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. There's no need for this. There's no need for this.
This is where I'm trying to get to. This is that you then do a video explaining your frustrations.
Because I had a heated conversation with Victor, not the Saturday, prior Saturday.
Yeah.
And I told him, Victor, you need to stand up and start speaking. I mean, are you a follower, or does our mayor speak for you? And he says no. And I also asked Diana, and she says, no, I speak for myself. Okay. I says, you need to stand up and speak out what's going on. And I went back all the way to my frustration, all the way to Rodriguez, that our public works manager, Liliana Falomir, sat on the project for 7 months, didn't do anything because she couldn't get a text, an email, a phone number from the union workers. When we had our meeting on December the 4th, I forward the number to Victor. Victor walks out. He comes back within 5 minutes or less, and he's got Fabian Martinez on the line. Hector Lopez, on the line. And I say, from the Carpenters, 619, I say, hey, Hector, what's up? What's going on? How come you guys haven't responded? And he says, hey, we're waiting on you guys. I says, okay. And then from there, it's history. We got the blessings from Juan, and I told Juan, I can spearhead this if I get the approval from you. I'll dedicate my time and be in charge of this situation. And he says, okay, go ahead. And that's when we started demolishing with the assistance of the carpenters and the electricians and community members. We started demolishing the Rodriguez concession stands and restrooms. That's where we started. And the rest is history. And it worked out pretty good until when we were asking, where are the amenities? We need the amenities. Well, we assumed that they were ordered, okay? Because that's what we thought. Because Madam Chair, Pat Ureña, and myself had at least three meetings with the Public Works Manager since December 4th, okay? And we told her, this is what we're planning on doing. This is what the material that we need. And she says, okay. But she never ordered them.
Yeah.
So we didn't get the benches of maybe almost 3 weeks, almost 4 weeks ago.
Yeah.
But we're still waiting on the amenities for the roll-up doors and the dividers and the restrooms.
Yeah.
Okay. And that was my frustration with Victor. And I says, and then the other thing, let's go back, Victor. At the beginning and around January, Jessica called me, Mr. Solano. Jesse, she says, you know what? They're telling me that I'm not going to have a Little League this season. And I says, why? Well, because the restrooms haven't been fixed. What do you mean they haven't been fixed? Well, because I had broken in quite a while ago, and they had stolen all the valves and everything from the Legion and Alice Rivera's concession stand and restrooms. And I says, they haven't fixed them? She says no. And then I texted Juan, and I texted Diana and Victor, and I told them what was going on. They responded. They got on it quick. I gave them credit. And I said, Victor, let's go all the way to that. They had told Jessica that no league because the restrooms are out of service. That's a disservice to the community.
Oh, yeah.
There's always a league every year. It's seasonal. Yeah. And then we come into Rodriguez. We're waiting for the amenities. And now we come into where the porta potties at Rodriguez they wanted to charge the porta potties to the league. And I told Victor, no, you're not going to do that. I says, And I told Diana, I know you're not going to do that. And then they said, well, we need to charge it to someone. We'll charge it to whatever account you want. Well, they figured the easiest way was to charge it to the $150,000 that was allocated for Rodriguez. And I said, Victor, this is, BS. Okay. Yeah. I says $150,000 was allocated to restore Rodriguez, not to pay for porta potties.
Temporary.
So this is petty. This is getting down to the point to where I'm frustrated. I don't know where you stand, what's going on. I says, and I told Victor, I'll tell you one thing. This is a amount where I draw my line. Okay, I'll make my stand here, even if it's my last stand. They say, I'm not backing down. And that's the bottom line. I am not backing down. Okay. Yeah. Okay, so because of me making a video with Maritza on Monday, what was it, last Monday, they call me in and they tell me, well, it's not working out. And I says,
you're going to get removed as a
I says, okay. I says, okay. I says, well, I says, Vicar, I'm not naive. Anyone that comes into a commission and does not read the city ordinance is naive. you can remove me now, next month, next 3 years and a half. And I says, if that's
For
how,
literally sneezing wrong.
and
they
I
remove
says,
you.
well, because I didn't want to go with the status quo, and I told him I was not going to be a rubber stamp commissioner. And I
You
told,
weren't going to be a yes man.
I have told everyone that I talked to, okay? And then when they interviewed me, Diana and Victor, I told Victor that day when he removed me, remember when we met here about 3 weeks ago? He says, yeah. What was my first words to you and Diana? We're at the right place, the right time, to whether we work together or we part ways. And I tell him, oh, you always hear from me what you have to hear, not what you want to hear. I will always be pushing your buttons, okay?
Yeah.
And I says, we will disagree and agree and find common ground. And if not, we part ways. So I think we part ways now because we don't agree.
Yeah.
You feel that we don't agree. And then he told me that he was removing me because of those videos. And then he was just tapping the table. Why did you do those videos? And what videos? I says, well, those videos. And I said, well, what's wrong with the videos? And he couldn't tell me. And I said, what's wrong with the videos? And that's all I got from him. I don't know why I got removed. All I know, I got removed because of the videos.
Yeah.
I don't know what I said wrong or what did I say right or what I didn't say. All I know, I didn't go with the flow, the status quo.
Yeah.
And I got removed.
You didn't play ball, so to speak, right?
Well, well, you see, the thing is, you know, when you play baseball or any sport, you know, you can't keep changing the regulations or the rules every time, you know. So.
Yeah.
Shoot, Carlos.
So okay, so in that when Victor called you in, you said he was tapping the table.
He was tapping the table. Why did you do those videos? Why those videos?
I think he was kind of.
And I says, what's wrong with the videos? And that was it. That's all I got. Those videos, Mr. Solano, those videos. Yeah, but what's wrong with those videos? That's all I know. I know that I did videos and I do a lot of videos. So I don't know if he was all the videos that I did from Rodriguez or was it just that Monday? I don't know. I don't know which video it
Or
was.
maybe it was the videos that you did during election season.
It's a possibility. I don't know.
I don't know.
I don't know. Yeah. But I told him, I says, if they think they did a disservice to me, well, they should think twice because I know who I am. I know where I stand. If by removing me, they did a disservice to the community because they know that I am very skillful, I'm very knowledgeable, and I'm straightforward up front. You know,
Look, you led the way for.
Let me tell you guys, okay?
And why would
A
they
lot
not
of people
wanna keep
don't know. I'm 73 years old. 73 years. I was born in 1953. Okay, in Fresno, Sangre, California, and I'm old school. Okay, I'm a little rough around the edges, but what you see is what you get. Mm-hmm. Okay. I don't flip flop, okay? So
here are my 2 cents about that. You're somebody that's really invested in the community. You're always everywhere as in regards to Calexico. You're involved in Calexico. You do your homework. I mean, look at all that.
Yeah, I do my homework.
You know, so you're somebody that the Calexico needs.
If I say something, I do my homework before I talk.
So to me personally, it was a bad move on part of Mr. Legaspi.
So be it. I mean, it is what it is. It is what it is at the end of the
You
day.
have to live with that.
I know, but this is my 2 cents because you are somebody that's invested. You do your homework. You care about the city.
Let me interrupt you a little bit.
Yeah.
And you know how come I got involved in this?
Yeah.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Because I was at a game last year at Rodriguez. There was a lot of concerned parents upset because the city wouldn't let them do any. They wouldn't even let them paint. Okay. And I says, and they were complaining about the fields that the city wouldn't take care of them and that they want to go in there and level and up and stuff like that. And I says, you guys really want to do that? I said, go ahead and do it. I says, I'll assume the responsibilities. If somebody tells you something, you tell them that this is my project. You will do that. I will assume the responsibility. Jessica was there. Some other coaches was there. That's when I met Jessica, and then she told me all these new ideas and all the dreams that she had and stuff like. All this started because of a dream from Jessica. Okay, I wasn't supposed to be part of this. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Somehow I got involved for being there at that game, and that's how I got involved. And that's how I committed myself to Little League. And then one of the things that Diana and Victor told me. Mr. Solano, being a commissioner covers a lot of areas, not just Little League. You're too committed to Little League. And I said, wait, stop. I'll tell you. And I told them the story. How come I got involved? I says, I committed myself to Little League. There's a lot of stuff to be done on Little League. And until I kind of finish and upgrade what we have to, then I'll move along to the other departments. And I says, you have other commissioners coming aboard, 6 more commissioners. You delegate those other responsibilities to other commissioners. I will participate all over the place, but my priority right now is bringing up to a decent status on the fields. I never lied, okay?
Yeah.
I wanna say something quickly because if you go back to whenever they were talking about revamping the commissioners or hiring new commissioners, they were talking
with
about
interview process.
They were talking about qualification, qualified
and people that were going to be committed to helping Calexico.
I don't mean to kiss your butt, Mr. Solano, but
Don't.
You're I don't want to. No, but you're somebody like to me. You're somebody that's highly qualified.
I know I am.
You know, you're highly qualified. Yeah. You care. Mm-hmm. You do your homework.
I'm committed.
You know, so you fit all the criteria according to what they said.
Not the status quo. I don't. No,
I know, but you wanted qualified, and you are qualified.
Well, not the status quo. Let me confirm that. Okay, based on the status quo, I don't. Okay.
So they want status quo. That's what
yeah. Okay.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like, yes, man, basically. To tell them, hey, we're going to do this. So they're like, yes, sir. Yes, sir. So Nano would be like, no, that's a dumb idea.
What is the purpose? Like I've always told Victor, and I tell her, what is the purpose of having an advisory committee or board? That's your responsibility as an advisory. You tell, and then I told him, you know, my priority is not to the council, even if they appoint me, okay? Or that council person. My priority is to the community.
Yeah.
Because I interact with them, but I interact with the community. Yeah. I'm supposed to be the mediator between the councilman and the community. Mm-hmm. So if I'm not relaying what the community is saying, and I just want to go up there and kind of look kind of good or sound good, well, you know, I'm not doing my job. Okay.
Yeah. So you're just there to play a part.
And then the thing is, that's a problem here in Calexico that we have. Everybody takes everything so personal. Mm-hmm. There's no diplomacy. There's no dialogue back and forth. We can't agree and disagree, and then okay, let's just adjourn the meeting or whatever, and let's just go drink coffee, have a beer or something like that, and just move on. No, you take it down to heart. I mean, what's wrong? I mean, you know.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's. Like you said, an advisory is there to
advise, good or bad.
Right, exactly. You know.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's what they're there for, is to be the middleman.
That's your responsibility as an advisor. You're supposed to say what you see. Okay.
So you get the feedback basically from the community saying the community needs this, and this. We need to do this, and this for these facilities.
I thought I was relaying what I was supposed to do. And
Council then votes on that vision.
Up or down.
Yeah, and they don't have any. They're not micromanagers. They just vote.
I tell them, you know, our advice, you can take it 100% and implement it. You can trash it all 100%. You can take 50, 30%. It's your discretion, you know.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. But they want the recognition of getting something done. So if they're going to do it their way, they're going to be like, well, I did this, and that's why a lot of the times what happens in Calexico is that the same way you're saying, it's people don't want to play together. They want to play separately and say, haha, look what I did.
Right.
Like Raul, every time he would come in and, hey, look how great this was that I was doing. And it wasn't really like that.
Yeah, to me it doesn't matter who gets the credit as long as we get it done.
Yeah.
I mean, we're supposed to have 125 acres at least of green space here in Calexico.
Right here, 77, right?
Okay, and we have 77. That's with basins, okay? But we have about 33 of parks and 33 of basins, and we got 3 of official, baseball fields, okay? About 10 acres of baseball field, that's all we got, okay? And about 33 of basins and 33 or 34 of parks. And then here's a formula. It tells you right here. For every 1,000 population, you need to have 3 parks, 3-acre park.
Which
for
is
every
125 acres of parkland.
For every, go ahead and read it.
So 3.3 acres per 1,000 population. So there should be a minimum of 125 acres of parkland based on the existing coverage of 77.73. There's a existing deficit of 47.41. So that's what you guys were saying, the negative 47.
Yeah.
So these are the type of things. It's like, no, you know, I bet you some people were also thinking of the negative 47.
No, we made it clear. Yeah.
Yeah, no, hold on. But here's my thing, because when I was looking at it on my table at home, I was like, that has to do with something else, right?
No.
So when
it just happens to be red and white and 40, it's right there.
No, that's what I'm trying to say, is that we're getting the information, guys. We're not just we're just thinking of out of the top of our head. No, there's actual 47 deficit of acres, right?
And here's what the acreage we're supposed to have by 2040. Okay.
So that's 3, 4, about almost 5 times. 5 times the amount in 2040, and we're not even close to there. So this is the thing, is that we're fighting over the little land we have, and we need more.
Is there a need? Definitely. Okay, and that's where I told them, let's work together, let's find a resolve. Okay?
Yeah, but at this point, I don't think City of Calexico is in the business of losing money. I mean, you put them up, you spend money to put them up.
What do you think?
Money to come down.
Let's assume that they go that route and knock it down, because we're going to make it viral. Okay, we will make it viral.
Yeah.
What do you think is going to happen when Calexico says, "Hey, state, we need funding for parks"? They're going to say, "Oh, are you down at the south next to the border, Calexico?" No, you build and then you demolish. No way. No way. No way.
Yeah.
Okay.
But not only on top of that, it's also the fact that they're going to lost my train of thought. Were you gonna say something?
Okay, completely different from what you're probably gonna say. But okay, back to the CFDs.
Yeah.
And there's a question that came to my mind. I think there's about a 538 parcels that pay CFDs, right, or something like that.
What?
538 parcels, I think I read in the
okay.
Addresses.
Here we go. Let's see. We got it. We got it right. We got it.
But my question is this: that's an extra. That's a special.
Here you go. 580.
Or 580.
Yeah.
Okay. So okay. So here's my question.
Add in also the thing that you said on right now.
You want me to?
Yeah.
There's about 30, 2023, 2024, there was 30 houses that
were deficit.
that did not pay. Okay, that's
so that's something that they're not adding. That's another information that we figured out.
Right, that equals to almost 4K.
Yeah, right now they're on an average on a yearly fiscal year, it's about $218,000.
Right.
Now, if you multiply that by 20 years, you're talking like $4.3 million. Now, it's a lot of money. Now, why hasn't there been a park?
Let me finish my comment.
Go ahead. I'm sorry. Yeah.
Okay.
Go for it.
Okay, so how much of that money is going strictly to parks, and how much of that money is going elsewhere within that community?
I have not been able, or I did not contact finance. We would have to contact finance so they can give a breakdown. But my understanding that 50% of it goes for parks, okay, for the maintenance, minor repairs, and upgrades, okay? And the other 50% goes for the infrastructure, for the drainage, sidewalks, and stuff like that, okay? So on top of that, they have to deduct the administration fees, and then when they initiated the CFDs, all that transaction, all that legal paperwork, okay, that has to be paid through the CFDs. You see, the CFDs is like a credit card that's limited. It's not like an open-end credit card that you can buy whatever you want. If that was the case,
I want to splash pad over here.
They would have finished the park. And I believe that.
Okay.
I don't think that there's misappropriation of funding. There's a possibility, but I don't think it's that is, because I don't have no hard facts,
Yeah.
But if it is, we are in trouble. We need to reimburse that to the CFD funding, okay? But I don't think that's the route, okay? So the thing is, the CFD, the way it was created, is based on the taxation, and whatever you pull out of the taxation, that's how you move forward. Okay, David Dale was not able to move forward back 7 years ago because there was not enough funding to move forward, okay, for the amenities, for the backstop, the tennis courts, and all that. That's how come he turned around and started using that the Measure H funding. And then Figueroa kicks in. Okay, and then you start using Measure H. Then Esperanza comes in, and you start using Measure H. Okay.
So there's different funds that were used.
Yeah.
And all of those are on
the CFDs function different. There's different ways how to work your CFDs. It varies. Not all the CFDs are the same across the board. It depends how you organize them.
And how the language is.
Yes. Now, why the city has not complied with the other amenities, I cannot honestly respond to that. Okay. Now, the breakdown from 2003 to right now, exactly how much went to administration, how much went to the for parks, and how much went for the infrastructure, I don't have that number. I would not lie.
That would be in the 30
finance.
days.
Yeah, that would be in the finance department. No, I don't have access to that.
Yeah, there was also another little thing that people were saying that supposedly the city manager never said 30 days, and he said that on
he did. Even on this meeting, this past meeting, this past meeting, he says they reminded me today that
2 weeks in.
I burned 2 weeks, so I got 15. Right now, I think he's got like 9 or 10 days left.
Yeah,
and they might ask for an extension. I don't know.
They can.
So they keep moving the goalpost. Yeah. So right now, I believe that they are kind of aware where the funding went. Right now, they're looking for that little loophole, that legality loophole, to make sure that they are able to bring it down.
Yeah,
that's the bottom line. They want to justify the legality of bringing it down, but they got to find a loophole.
Yeah.
But the way I see it, let's say that somehow the city wasn't fully complied in something, zoning, a permit, or whatever, something legal. I think that this council should be working in the process. Okay, let's correct that if we can, and let's move forward. This nonsense about bringing it down, it does not make sense,
Yeah.
It does not make sense of bringing it down, okay, because we invested so much time, so much money, okay, so.
And just to waste taxpayer money on that, do we get a portion of that? Do I get my taxpayer money back for paying for that?
Well, if they bring it down, they're going to have to open up exactly all that funding that was used from ARPA.
And give it back to us.
They're going to have to give it back.
I mean,
and that's how come I told them, not on this meeting, the past meeting, if they went that route, I told them, don't force us to file an injunction. Okay, we don't want to get in a fight with the city because we would be suing ourselves. We don't want to do that. But when you file an injunction, that's just like a monkey wrench, that you get a court order to where they put a stop until further investigation is proceeded on the process. But I told them, don't force us to file an injunction. We don't want to go that route. So there's no need for that.
So overall, right now, it's not. What would you say? It's not looking too good, or you have hope, or how would you?
I'm sure that if this is just stuff that's out there, but I don't think at the end of the day they're going to knock them down. But then the damage has been done within the community, soccer and baseball.
Pitting people
and then and I told them, we're polarizing the community. We just came out of a recall where we got real polarized, and then we're polarizing the community again with this when we're supposed to be working together. It doesn't make sense, And then what do they say? Believe us, trust in us. How can we trust and believe a council that wants to go that route?
Yeah.
It's hard to trust them.
Yeah.
Okay, so.
Yeah, I wouldn't trust them with the 10-foot pole either. I mean,
so
that's the thing is that it's just to get to the point to be able to explain, saying like, hey, we need to do this. These people were abused. It's like, what do you think you're doing? You're getting rid of something that we're already in deficit.
And the thing is, if we go back from this is as far as I could go. Okay.
Yeah. 24. I think it's up to like 2014. No.
2015.
2015. 2014 is the first year that they stopped or started, or 2015 was the first year they started putting online.
Who was the mayor back then?
John Moreno.
Okay, John Moreno. Okay. What's item 16?
Resolution approving the concept plan for Adrian Cordova Park, authorizing hiring consultants, which is not going to be paid through CFD. It's going to be paid through the general fund, right? Architects, engineering to design and complete engineering plan specifications for Adrian Cordova Park. Wow. January 30th, 2015. Oh, wait, no. That's when the agenda was done. So this was the agenda for February 3rd, 2015.
Okay. And then the next time they touched it is there. Right there.
April 19th, when Nick Finley was interim city manager, having an informational item on Cordova. Oh, wow. An informational item.
Just informational. You know.
Oh, and then the fiscal impact. It
Yeah.
shows you, right? Every time
Exactly.
it tells you what is going to be spent on.
This
It says
agenda,
right
this
here,
agenda should have
measures
had some backup material, but
Yeah.
Finley was never in compliance, so it was
Yeah.
just informational. But you see how much money was.
What about agenda minutes? Maybe there's agenda minutes.
There's an agenda minutes. No.
Okay.
Yeah,
We'll have to
and
look
then
for
you
that
go
one.
on there. Was that one there? They covered it
And then
again.
2016 again. And then, so it says right here that Community Facilities District, Robert Lodides, was used for the Adrian Cordova project in the amount of $795,306, with also $1,480,000 from Measure H. So actually, it wasn't.
But what does it tell you up there? The year, the month,
2016?
and what does it say? There's a soccer field and the 5 acres, right?
Yeah, the remaining 10 acres of Cordova Park is undeveloped, right?
Yeah, but what does it say at the beginning? 5 acres.
Oh, okay, yeah. It's located. Okay, approximately 5 acres of Cordova Park has been developed into soccer.
Into a what?
Soccer.
Okay. So
5
we,
acres.
So we do have a soccer field, right?
Yes. So
Okay.
there is a soccer field.
So
out
okay,
there,
when they
so-
try to squeeze in that second soccer field, that's what kind of messed up everything.
Yeah, exactly.
And then if we keep on going, there you go.
2017 in this is when Amanda was there and David Dale. This was the December 6, 2017. They authorized a grant for $104,000 with change for the Adrian Cordova Park playground. All inclusive playground. Okay. Remember.
The developer wanted to split town, but he was not in compliance with the 5 acres. When he installed, because he helped the city of Calexico bring in this playground.
Yeah.
Okay, so when they installed the playground, that's when the city gave him the
okay to
the
do it.
okay. Then he split town.
And then he left. Yeah. That's what always happens. This is what I'm trying to tell you is that we always get these bonds or whatever from these fancy people telling us, oh, yeah, you're going to have all these things. And then we get screwed at the end of it. Just like the marijuana tax.
Yeah, and then David Dale comes in by that time.
2018, this is January 2018.
That's when they touched.
They authorized the first
Okay.
change order for the amount in $46,000 for the installation of the playground and amenities.
Okay.
Or
Yeah.
yeah.
There was a change order, and then there's still right there. Oh, let's see. No, let's see that one there. That's for the
So
playground.
then
right
in
there.
March. Okay, so this was the resolution that is the same one. Okay, so that it just says about the general fund is being used,
Yeah.
$3 million.
And here's David Dale again.
So that is March 1st, 2018. Again, they're describing that the council, what they did before, and then approximately
So you can read that.
$492,000 was spent for this fiscal year in 2017, 2018, which was from general fund. Right. This was what it. So all these could be looked at over and over again, guys.
Yeah.
Okay. So when they tell you online that says all these people are misinformation, okay, so what is the work that we're doing here? What is this? You know?
Yeah.
This is what they can't contend with.
Yeah.
And what I've been telling you and I've been saying is there's an ulterior motive. When these things happen, just like the recall of the IID recall, there's ulterior motives to these things. There's reasons why they're doing this, right? The outcome is what they want, not necessarily all this fighting in the between. What's it saying?
Shoot, Carlos.
Okay, let me read this one right here. This is from March 15, 2020. It says Legion Park, home to a pair of baseball softball diamonds used by youth leagues, will not be sold for potential development until Calexico has more ball fields.
Is that
in
an
play.
article?
Yeah.
What's the name of the article?
Calexico
Oh,
Legion
it's
Park closure postponed. And then it says the Calexico City Council voted unanimously March 4th to record a final map with the county that would split up Legion Park into smaller sections to sell for commercial development.
So it wasn't the Calexico City Council just doing it willy-nilly.
No.
They actually went with the county and made sure that these plans were correct.
Exactly.
Wow.
And
the more you know.
And then it says, however, any sale will wait until 3 new ball fields at Cordova Park are complete.
Yeah.
There's actually there's a grammatical error here. Richard Brown. Okay. But anyways, that's a different topic.
You got to go there.
City Manager David Dow said during the meeting, yes, the agreement is lots as part of Legion Park will not be sold or used until new baseball fields or softball fields are made.
Yeah. And that's what he was saying, is that that Legion will be removed until Cordova was done.
But look into it, where it says about the funding, when they wanted him to commit on funding. He didn't give an exact number on funding because he didn't have funding. Continue reading it.
Let's see here. It says Legion, okay, they're responding to an inquiry for Mayor Pro Tem David Romero. Okay, although bids are being sought for fencing at the Cordova fields, Dale could not say when the fields would be ready when he was contacted March 6th. We're doing the project in small chunks as we can, Dale stated in a brief email. After the fencing is up, the city will next install irrigation and plant grass using existing staff and funds as they become available, Dale said previously. The city has about $1 million set aside for Cordova Park, but information on the expected use of those funds beyond the fencing was not immediately available. The city recently completed grading for the Cordova fields with the help of Imperial Irrigation District, which hauled away 12,000 cubic feet of yards of dirt at no cost to the city.
Okay. And you see, okay, they used $1 million, then here we go, additional funding there. Okay.
And that is an agenda staff report from
agenda.
So this what is the date here is March 18, 2020. This is March 15. So 3 days later. This is award the bid proposal from Crafters Fence Inc. in the amount of $167,750.
Fiscal impact. Look at fiscal impact. What was it?
Impact. Where do I find that?
Maybe the next page. Yeah.
Fiscal impact budget item. This is a Measure H bond, $167,000.
Oh, okay. So the fences that was paid for at Cordova was Measure H bond.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
And here goes.
Making sure that agenda says.
Yeah. Here we go. Next. Here. Mira.
But it's not the dugouts though.
Yeah. Pero ahí va. Mira. There you go.
Yeah,
right there.
So there's more.
Here you go.
Okay.
That's a big one there.
Ward
July
bid proposal. This is July 15, 2020. This is a few months later.
City of Calexico.
Yeah. Ward bid proposal from Tom Watson Incorporated in the amount of $755,501. And authorized city manager to sign construction agreement for spotlighting to Adrian C. Cordova. So this is for spotlighting.
So this is the lights.
Right. This is for lights. Award. Okay.
Fiscal impact.
Next page. Okay. This is what they selected. Okay.
Right. So
there was different options, but they selected this: soccer and baseball.
So they picked option number 2 with LEDs.
Okay, which is option
2.
Public Works, which is this one, right?
Yeah, that was recommended by Public Works. Yeah.
Okay, so Public Works staff has found that Tom Watson Incorporated meets all the recorded guidelines and are the only responsible bidder. So, okay.
And that
fiscal impact.
Budgeted item for fiscal year 2020-2021, $755,501
from
Measure H bond.
Measure H. So there's lights now being paid for Measure H.
There you go.
I'm wondering where the CFD comes in, Mr. Solano. I'm just wondering.
This one is from September 6, 2023. This is Esperanza Colio Warren, the city manager. This says adopt the budget amendment resolution to fund number 255 American Rescue Plan as ARPA in the amount of $465,000 for Adrian Cordova Park. It's baseball field fencing. There's more fencing.
We did this one already.
Oh yeah.
This is more fencing right here.
Okay. Then you got this one here, mira.
Oh no, this is reverting back to the previous one that I read from 2020. Okay then. So restrooms, so the spotlighting, this is restrooms, irrigation system. Okay, spotlighting, sport lighting 2020, 809,000. Restrooms 2021, November 26, 2021, that's 303,000. Irrigation systems, this is irrigation systems, okay, it doesn't say a number. Amenities, pathways, and walkways, 172,000 from ARPA.
Oh, so this is ARPA now.
Yeah, engineering services. This is wait. This one, because there's several. This is from 2023, but all these different
have already been done.
Right? Like for example, that one is from September 14, 2022.
Esperanza was on board.
Engineering services. The city of council of the authorized city managers to sign agreement of professional services with Kimberly Horn in the amount.
The only thing that we've done on this one here is Rodriguez.
Oh wow.
Okay.
So this is in the amount of 100.
The only thing that we've done is Rodriguez.
Okay.
Out of all this.
Okay, so this is in the amount of 175,000 for engineering services. This is April 20, 2023. Okay.
But what is that specific agenda item on in the beginning?
But this is for September 6, 2023. The agenda item is adopt budget amendment resolution to fund number 255 American Rescue Plan ARPA in the amount of $465,000 for Adrian Cordova
The fencing
Park.
and the lighting.
Phase 1, it says.
For
That would be the landscaping and the landscaping in the parking lot. Remember on Zapata. Remember they did the backstops and then they stopped there, and then we couldn't use the park because officially, legally, within the law, you cannot use it until you have the landscaping and the parking. Okay, it was supposed to be done in last October, but then they fell behind and did not finish into January. So those parks have been ready to go since January.
Yeah, with all the things that it needs. And fiscal impact on that?
So, wait, there's 740,000 from CFDs here. I don't know where it says where that's going, though. This is 100.
That was the only CFDs that were utilized.
Because those are facilities, right? Walkways,
Right.
all that
So
kind of
then
stuff.
Okay.
ARPA 172,000, 175,000, and then 465,000.
What have I
from
been
ARPA.
telling you? They use for minor maintenance repairs or infrastructure.
Yeah.
Okay. Was I lying a while ago? How the CFDs are used?
Yeah.
No.
Okay.
Now, do the residents around there have a great concern, or community members, because the other amenities have not been installed? Of course.
Yeah.
But has the council, this council, has they told the community why those amenities have not been installed? Yeah. And that's what
No, they want to place blame on someone.
they gotta throw someone under the bus. They threw me under the bus already, so
Yeah, and that costs you a commission spot.
so be it. So be it.
Yeah. So this one, which is the interesting one, where I was like, wow, but it's obvious why it was happening during this time. This was for March 16, 2022. You guys can look this up on the agenda, and you have here the approval of construction of a soccer field by the Calexico Parents Athletic Association, which is Carmen Estrada's Little League Soccer.
Yeah, but
right?
we had a conversation with her the other day and today. Well, the other day, okay, and today, and she is willing to sit down and have a good conversation with us. So,
So all these things, it's like
working together.
Yeah, she tried to get something done, didn't go through, didn't work. Right?
She thought it was going to be easier. So when the city said, "Okay, you want to build the park? Okay,
you need insurance,
and then you need insurance, you need all the bond, you need all these liabilities and all these requirements," and she says, "Oh, it's not that simple. It's not that easy."
Yeah.
Okay.
So for me, this thing always comes back to this. So why doesn't Yolanda, instead of going and complaining about all these things, goes and gets something done about it? Right? This is what you did. You created CVAG. So that way you can get something done, have some kind of extra help.
Yes,
right?
I told them the purpose of creating Calexico Volunteer Alliance is because I heard the coaches and the parents. We need a change. We need somebody to spearhead this, somebody that knows how to do it, somebody that's willing to go out there and talk to the council. I said, well, I'll do it. I used to do it before.
Yeah.
I'll do it again.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. So this is what we're trying to do. We will always try to do. As far as us as well, telling these stories, letting people to be heard, right? Because a lot of times what they're trying to do is silence them, and we can't allow that. We have to be able to discuss these things openly, without fighting, without having to put people in jail for some reason, all these things, or clowning us on freaking rants and raves, that kind of stuff, where it brought you in, where you didn't need to be in there. It
hurt my feelings.
Yeah, I knew you were crying a lot. But
you're a sensitive guy too.
Yeah.
If you're gonna be in this business, you better have thick skin, man.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Well, I don't really care. But so it's
there.
It's all over the agenda.
It's there.
It's not only CFDs that are going into the Cordova Park.
No, Measure H.
There's Measure H.
And ARPA funding, and then there's a funding of 175,000 from Kimberly Horn or something like that. It's like I don't know if it's a state grant or something like that. I don't know how that works.
Yeah.
So that's it's
Finishing up, you have something last.
Well,
comments?
I mean, everything is in the agendas.
Yeah. It just takes some time to look for it, right?
It's not. At the end of the day, it would be in my and this is my 2 cents.
Yeah.
if something is already built,
why knock it down?
Why knock it down?
Let's improve it. Let's find us a result. And that's how come I'm telling the community when they ask me, and I says, go, talk to your councilmen, write them, text them, email them, go to the council meetings and tell them, we want those other amenities, and ask them why haven't those amenities been installed, and ask them what's the balance of the CFDs. Okay. I mean, if you're a taxpayer, you're entitled to find out exactly where your money went. That's your right. To find out exactly.
Yeah, for me, I feel like Yolanda had the right thing to do to go to council and start to talk about these things. That hey, why isn't it done? Let's get something done. Right. So, but then to start accuse people, that's where then you're like.
So who could the people like if they want to figure out where the money is going? Like who would they contact?
They would have to talk to the city manager, but or reach out to the finance director, and if the finance director is willing to sit down, have like a workshop or something with them. My recommendation would be for them, like whoever's interested, contact the finance director and tell her, we would appreciate it if you have some time. You give us either in the morning,
this information.
And we need at least 45 minutes, an hour from your time, and she would have to get approval from the city manager and go from there, and then just give the community some information, either the finance director or the city manager, or city manager and the finance director. Okay. Okay, or if the city manager is too busy, it would be the planning director. But you need to have the finance director or somebody from staff that knows the answers to that.
Yes.
Okay, because if you're going to have like a little mini workshop, you need someone that's going to be able to answer some questions, not just to go out there and sit and absorb and listen and take notes. No, that's not going to work out. It's a good start, but it's not helpful right now. Right now, we need some response. Like, okay, like I said, 2,000, 1,800 times 20, it gives you about $4.3 million. That's a rough estimate. Now the breakdown, okay, they want a breakdown. When they call, they gotta. Hey, we need a breakdown for the last 20 years.
Yeah, of everything that's spent on Cordova.
Okay, so here,
but that's what they're doing already. They're doing it in 30 days.
So here's another brief comment before we wrap it up.
Yeah,
it's 40 years, right? It's like
the sunset is 40 years. They're 25 or 20 or 25, but it goes up to 40 years. This one sunset is in 40.
Okay, so it
20 more years.
It began in 2003. Right, 2003. Okay, so my question to you is, that's already been like 21 years.
20.
So, do you think that Bravo Rodiles has benefited in those 20 years, or is it like
yes, because they built the first 5 acres, okay, and now, okay, not even using CFDs, they have 3 backstops there, okay.
Not even using
CFDs, okay. That's ARPA funding, okay, and Measure H. So sure. Okay, so whatever comes out from the CFDs is going to be a plus. If they want to upgrade whatever condition from the park, they want to make any changes down the line, they're going to have funding.
I guess my question was, shouldn't all of these parks already been? It's been 20 years. That's a long time. You don't think it should be completed already?
That's the issues also with Hearthstone.
You know what I mean? Because what if like
Hearthstone's been
40 years come around and it's like, we're still debating about whether to to destroy the backstops.
Well, you see that's part of the problem here in Calexico. No, you go out there and make a few comments, stuff like that, and then they shut you down, and then you go away, and nobody makes no comments or anything for years and years. And then for whatever reason, you kind of wake up, or somebody wakes up the situation, and they want to start it again. That's what happened with this situation. Okay, the maps here don't lie. They're from
the beginning.
The originals are from 2011, okay, because that's what states on the drawings. But as far as I could Google, it was 2015.
Yeah.
So since 2015, it's been ongoing situation to where it's 3 backstops. Okay.
So from 2003 to 2011, there was money being.
There wasn't much done. The only thing that was developed was the first 5 acres.
Yeah.
I don't know how to go into the system to where I can get that information. If I could, I would have gone in there and gotten all that information. I don't know.
Those are all in cold storage.
Yeah. I don't know how to go about getting all that information.
Because Bravo Rodiles was already there, right? The neighborhood.
Yeah. No. Yeah.
Everything. So there was about maybe 200,000 generated per year.
That's why
since 2003,
Yeah. Well, the thing was that it was it was in that area, that park. It was just dirt, right? Adrian Cordova died. He passed away, right, in Line of Duty, was it?
Yeah.
Yeah. And then they named the park out of, and that's where the whole thing started.
Yeah.
Then we're like, let's get something done, because he was also into Little League, Adrian, wasn't he?
Mm-hmm.
So that's why in reality it started right there. It was going to be our jewel, our
Right.
crown jewel of Calexico.
And there was
of a
already
badass
money being set aside from the CFDs.
phone. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
So why the question is why the delay and why the delay on the amenities? I don't know. I don't have the answer for that.
Yeah.
Okay, so another question that I have is, so what else was done from 203 when the CFDs began to
Just the 5
2008?
acres, now plain 5 acres. If it had not been, that's how come I keep repeating myself. If it had not been for Dale, okay, nothing had been done on the other 10 acres. The other 10 acres would have been the same right now.
Dirt.
Let's give credit to Dale, to Figueroa, and to Esperanza that they pushed it. If it hadn't been for Dale, David Dale, Miguel Figueroa, and Esperanza Colio, that park would have not been in the situation that it is right now. Let's give credit to those three. My hat's off to them. Yes.
Yeah. Because it was just ignored.
Okay.
I mean, it's hard to start from nothing, right? Especially when you're out an engineer, you're out a public works director, you don't have all these things.
And
then
you
now
see,
you're doing
one
it
thing that
yourself
we need to
do.
understand is that when you send that's not your master plan. It's like a mini master plan of your service area plan here in Calexico for the 5 years.
Yeah.
When the last time that Calexico submitted one was, I think it was 2003, and then in 2006, LAFCO says, "Hey, you guys, calling Calexico, what's up with the service area plan?" Can you believe me? Calexico did not respond until 2011. Okay, and then they responded, and then by that time, they had that service area plan from 2015. That's the one that LAFCO revises it, and then they approve it in 2018, and that's the latest report that we have. But you see, whatever Calexico submitted to LAFCO, they had made an assessment. LAFCO did an evaluation. After they did the evaluation, they say, okay, go ahead and move forward. And based on the recommendation from LAFCO, okay, because LAFCO is an extended arm from the governor. It's a district that oversees all the districts here in the Pure Valley. So based on that, using the state regulations, that's how come they move forward. Okay, and I don't think Dale did something improper or Miguel, and for sure, I know that Esperanza did not go wrong on that project, because she was very picky on that.
Tedious.
Yeah, very tedious on those situations.
Dot her I's and cross her T's all the time.
Yeah, she would have brought it up.
To her detriment.
Yeah,
too.
she would have brought it up like, okay, by the way, council, yes, we can move forward, but however, we're not in compliance with these regulations. We need to bring them up to date. And that was never brought up. Now, if that happened, then our previous council members and our previous service managers did some kind of a disservice to the community for not letting the community exactly know what was going on, and it was because it was done improperly. But I don't think it was done improperly or illegal. Okay, I don't think there was funding misappropriated either. There might be some items moved around, like minor errors. I don't think it was done intentionally either.
I think one of the things that they're complaining about is like the plans changed. Well, if you actually ask David Dale, I'm pretty. What I understood as why one of the fields moved was because the balls, the pop flies, were going to be going into the houses, so they kind of moved them away a little bit from the house.
Yeah, the original
That's what I understood.
the original backstops were going to be on the far east side, and based on what Joseph just said, they relocated it to this side. So by that time, the light fixtures were installed already. By that time, Estrada wants to come in and squeeze in a soccer field.
Second soccer field. 'Cause remember,
Soccer
there's
field.
already one there.
Far west north, that's the first soccer field in 2015, 2016. Okay, now she's saying that because of the walkway doesn't give the official measurements, and because of the lights, the lights are supposed to be not so close. But that infrastructure was done because it's supposed to be a parking lot, a basketball court, and an open-end space. It's not supposed to be a soccer field. She lobbied for it to be a soccer field. Then when she found out that it didn't give the legal measurements, they were in trouble. Then she lobbied the council that she wanted a walkway. The walkway should have, I've seen the plans, okay? should have done right next to the fence of the baseball.
Yeah.
But they did it, maybe 10 feet away from the fence. So that was 10 feet minus plus the, 4 feet of the sidewalk. You're talking 14 feet.
Yeah.
So when you make that curve of that walkway, there's a certain area that doesn't give you the official measurements for an official game. Yeah. If you want to have competitions here in Calexico, you have to have an official game. Part.
Yeah.
Okay. And
size.
Size, and that's part of her worry, Yeah. But like we told her, let's work together. Let's see what we can do. There's got to be a way to where we can work together, and let's try to work on building a soccer field somewhere.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's look for grants. Let's work together.
Let's
work together as nonprofits.
But for what? If then you're gonna destroy them.
You see, this is the way I am. I'm willing to cross the aisle and lobby with anyone. I'm telling Ms. Estrada, let's work together and let's find a solution for this. Okay, let's get the kids to play.
Yeah.
And at the our concern was and is whatever the adults are going to do, go ahead and do it. But why stop the kids from playing? That is the only thing.
Yeah.
Let the kids play. Those parks are ready to go. Let the kids play. Let them enjoy. Little League season is almost over, okay? We're more than halfway. Yeah. So what's the problem of letting the kids play? What's the damage are they going to cause? Now, if they assume that they're right and they say, well, we got a 3 vote, okay? Well, so be it. Knock it down if that's a route that you want to go, okay? But then another thing that I've been telling everyone, Victor has to abstain because he lives literally across the park. So he cannot and he should not get involved in this.
Yeah.
So it's going to be Diana and Lisa and Calderon and Marquez. So most likely if there's a motion, there's not going to be a second. And if there's a second, they're going to vote on it. It's going to be a 2-2, okay?
And nothing gets done.
Okay, and if there's not a second, the motion is going to die. So they're going to have to go resolve something.
Yeah.
Those 4 council members are going to have to come into an agreement. That's the way I see it.
Yeah.
Okay, so what? It's up to the community to speak out and call your council members. Hey, what's up?
Yeah. So just to wrap it up, we have Davis Marianne saying, well, what's going to happen with Mr. Solano on the board? No more commissions? What is your plan?
Not me. If I get appointed to another commission, so be it. But I don't think, by Victor, I don't think so. No. But, I mean...
What if he were to say, hey, I want you back? Would you...
If he says, hey, Solano, come back, I'll go back. Yeah, why not? There's no problem. Okay. Hey, like I told Victor, no, we left on good terms. No, we left on good terms.
Okay.
I use diplomacy.
Yeah.
If I see Victor, we can shake hands, we can sit down and have a coffee, stuff like that. No. The community needs to understand. I need to respect every council member. It doesn't matter. Yeah. And I respect the podium. You have seen that. Okay. No. I use a lot of diplomacy. We can agree and disagree. Yeah. In an argument or a conversation that we have right now, but let's leave it as it is, But, I don't take it to heart.
Yeah.
No, I don't take it to heart. I mean, if he had his marching orders, so be it. If it was his own decision, so be it. Yeah. I don't have any problem with that, okay? Yeah. The community needs to understand, I don't need to, and I don't have to justify myself. I know who I am, I know where I stand.
Yeah.
And when I say something, I'm committed.
Yeah.
Okay. And if I'm going to part ways, I'm man enough to say, thank you, but it's time for me to move on.
You don't need this no more, too, Solano.
No, I don't. I'm telling you. I'm telling you. I'm 73 years. I'm not supposed to be here. Yeah. But because Jessica Perez and some coaches told me they need some help, and we need someone that's willing to go out there and talk to the council. And I says, I'm your guy. I says, okay, I'll put in my 2 cents. And I did.
Yeah.
I did, so.
Yeah.
But no, there's no hard feelings. No.
That's good.
No. My respects to everyone. There's no hard feelings,
Okay.
No.
Onward and upward, we're on the same mission. We're still going to...
it's still our community. We're still Calexico,
Yeah, we're still trying to figure out how we can work together, how we can get what everybody wants.
We had a conversation with Jeff Gonzalez. Now, there's some negative conversation going out there that... Jeff Gonzalez kind of ran us off to, they can ask him, that's lies, okay? This Saturday we met with Jeff Gonzalez out there in El Centro. And I explained the situation, what's going on. And I says, because we told Jeff when we were on the recall, Jeff, we want what Coachella has, Indio, what Thermo has, those parks, I mean, and compared, we don't have anything. And he said, yeah, let me work on it. If once I get aboard, we'll work on it. And we asked him this weekend. And he says, Mr. Solano, he says, the only way that things are going to work on the valley if we create a special district like ITCT, to where they're going to see the valley as a whole, okay? And it's going to be voted in. Like, you know, those positions are going to be appointed. Yeah. And then they're going to alternate. Like, for example, okay, Imperial, so much for Imperial, so much for Calexico, so much for Jovio. You know, that's the only way that money is going to be coming down the pipeline for Calexico. Yeah. And for the other cities here in Imperial Valley. If you guys want to do it the other way, it's going to be almost impossible. He says, I'm sure it's not going to work out. But if you guys want what these guys have over there, we need to create a special district. But he says, I'm not going to push it.
Yeah.
The cities are going to have to come into an agreement. They're going to have to get their act together. Like, for example, Calexico. Yeah. Calexico Council, you need to get your act together. City community members, we need to get our act together. We need to form, okay, a district. Mm-hmm. Okay, to where we can tap into those state funding. That's the only way that this thing's going to work.
It's kind of
because just said, I will not implement a resolution like Eduardo Garcia did.
Hold on. I was about to mention that.
He says no.
It's like AB 918.
Yes.
Hold on. But this is what it's trying to do. What it's trying to do is trying to get a representative from each city to be on that board of parks and then get funding like AB 918. But then here's the thing. We get left behind like AB 918 is left
No, but not this time because it's going to be a district. He's going to create it. He says, I would like to create a district first and go from there. But each city council has to get their act together and they need to be wanting that district. If they don't want to be part of it, if they don't want that solution, then he just says, I don't know what to say. I says, community members are going to be coming up to me like you're coming up to me, and this is what I'm going to turn around and say. You need to get your act together and let's create a district.
And here's the thing, all you're doing is just scaling it. Right? Yeah. You're what the city gets, like bonds and CFDs, you're just going to scale it for them to get bigger money to come in.
Exactly. And then
it's the same problem we're coming back to. And this is what I'm trying to say is that the solution sounds fine on paper, but does it actually work? I don't know.
Yeah. What if you go talk to Yuma, because it seems like they have really nice baseball
that's what he's saying.
Well, Coachella does.
Coachella.
Coachella and Thermal. Haven't you been to Thermal?
Yeah, but
no, wait. Have you
talked to me about Coachella? I think about Bacduma Park, and I don't want to.
No. They're beautiful parks out there. Go to Thermal. Thermal has a
Bacduma Park. You know what? When I think about Coachella, I think about negative stuff. I come from Coachella.
No, they have. Look, Thermal. If you would blink, you wouldn't notice when you pass Thermal. Thermal has a beautiful community center, a Boys and Girls Club. They have a library. They have a civic center. They have a fire station.
I come from that place, and I would have to go back and
you need to
re-verify.
Next time I go over there, I'll take a video and I'll send it to you.
It's Snyder is saying Mecca.
Mecca, that's even worse.
No,
because you were saying Thermal.
Yeah. Thermal and Mecca. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I mean, I go to Yuma a lot, and they have really nice baseball parks.
Oh yeah,
but they don't have taxes like we do over here.
But you see, what is it that you have over there that we don't have here because we don't?
White people?
No. They have a lot of snowbirds.
Oh, okay.
Well, that's what it is.
No.
That's
wait.
what it is.
No, you're going by it. No. I don't want to go there. Okay, that's like I said no. If we had what Yuma had here, don't you think that the snowbird would come down here? They would come down here if we had what Yuma had. Mm-hmm. But we can't get our act together. We can't even figure out if we want or we don't want two backstops. Yeah. How ridiculous is that? How petty is that?
Oh yeah.
That is petty.
Yeah.
When a council cannot figure up or make up their mind if they want or don't want, or they're planning on knocking two backstops. Okay, when the community members started living there 20 years ago, that's petty. That is petty. Yeah. I mean, that just tells you how much brain is up there. Okay, so.
Yeah. So let's talk
Common
about
sense.
this, just to wrap
I
it
know.
up. So,
I know. I was looking for it. I was like, what the heck is he talking about?
I'll give it that to you, Soldier Boy, if you want. But yeah, wrapping it up. I think there was a lot of information here. If anybody has questions, don't be shy. Comment, ask us. Solano will be there to answer.
Anybody that's got any questions, I'm open. I mean, I don't have no problem with that. It's what it is. It is. What happens, and we just move forward. I mean,
And this is why we wanted to do this, because to give you a chance, because everyone want to say, oh, it's misinformation. It's like, no,
it's right here. No.
And especially when it's coming from your mouth, this is what you experienced, because then they want to say, oh, that never happened. He's just making.
Well, they can turn around. Our mayor can turn around and say that she didn't call me, and Ms. Cunningham can turn around and say they didn't call me. That's it'll be their word against me.
But just to lay it out with the story of how this all.
But it could not be coincidence if they're talking to Jessica regarding the same thing. They would be talking to Jessica. They wouldn't be talking to me. Yeah. You see, the thing is that they wanted to use the nonprofit.
Should I go buy some pizzas and then come back?
They wanted to use the Calexico Volunteer Alliance Group.
That's where
that's where they went wrong. I told them it goes against our mission and our vision.
Yeah, that's like the audacity to ask you something like that.
Okay, and I told Victor, we spent weekends remodeling, restructuring. Restoring Rodriguez. Yeah. And for them to ask me that, how do you think I felt? Yeah. I said,
I think they probably thought that you were like, ooh, you're gonna pay me to knock that down? I'll do it. That's probably what they thought. They didn't know, or they didn't think you had that big.
I'm thinking of submitting my time card. I spent literally about 13 weeks in weekends.
Rodriguez.
I was the guy that would open the gate and would close the gate. The workers, staff from Public Works, they would drop the truck and trailer. I would be there to open the gate. They would drop truck and trailer. Another guy would come and pick him up. Then I would call either them, or I would call Jose Saldaña, the Public Works supervisor. 1:30. Hey, Saldaña, we're leaving. Okay, are you still there? I'm going to be here until the last guy leaves. I says, when you guys pick up the trailer and truck, I'll leave. So I would open and close, and I would open and close the container.
Yeah.
Okay. And I was there since day one, because I went with a city crew to Home Depot to buy the material. So I know that on material, the Rodriguez did not go over $30,000. They did not go over $30,000. Okay. How much the benches cost, I don't know. How much the roll-up doors and the amenities for the restrooms are going to cost, I do not know. The water pump, I do know that Saldaña told me it ran almost $17,000. Okay. And they installed it. It went bad twice. It broke loose, and it spilled water. It's because they're lacking a damper that's supposed to be connected, because when they removed the old pump, it didn't kind of match with the original fitting that's there. So they spoke to Fred from Imperial Valley Welding from El Centro, and he says you need a special damper that goes in there, so when the pump kicks in, all that vibration won't slip that coupler. Okay, so I don't know. I haven't been out there. Okay, if they did install it or not, but I do know that the water pump ran about $17,000. Okay, but the roll-up doors and the amenities for the restrooms, I don't know what it costs. But for the restoring of Rodriguez, they didn't go up to $30,000. Okay.
Yeah, and then also
and a lot of paint was donated. Okay, the city only paid one carpenter member.
There's ARPA allocated.
Right? One carpenter member donated 15 gallons. Mm-hmm. Okay. And the city, he donated 15 gallons. The city.
Do you have the name of the one that donated it?
Hector Mesa.
Hector Mesa from
569, the electrical international international brother electrical workers.
I thought the company had sent you paint from someone here locally.
And then the city put in 15 gallons. Okay, that's what Saldaña gave me, 15 gallons, and the rest of the paint was donated by community members. Yeah. But the city only paid about $30,000. They did not go over $30,000 of material. Okay,
and none of it labor paid.
None. Okay, and then all the food, the drinks were donated. They were donated by Blanca Morales from Calexico Wellness, from Pat Ureña, Cristina Rojas, Maritza Hurtado, myself. other community members, Mr. Camilo, Victor took some coffee.
They even put some effort into there.
The council members also took. What was it? One occasion, Diana took some ceviche. Big old tray of ceviche. The other time, what was it? Mrs. Marquez took some bread or twice, and so on. But everybody participated one way or another. Yeah. And then we got a great shout out to Eddie from La Fuente. He's given us so many discounts, on food and drinks. Great and then the other guy that participated a lot is Alex Gomez from La Botica. He donated the pressure washer. He's been donating paint. He probably donated over $2,000 of paint. Alex Gomez, and then Alex Hernandez also donated the use of the boom. So everybody participated. Mr. Camilo gave paint. Ernie Medina gave paint. Javier Moreno gave paint.
Camilo gave his time too.
They gave their time too. So everybody.
It was a big.
It was a community input. And I think we should come back to that
and do the same.
If we did it before, we can do it. We need to get our act together and start working together instead of working against each other.
That's it. Yeah, it's a sign.
But to sign off.
Closing comments?
Closing comments.
Closing comments, Mr. Solano?
No, thank you very much. We need to come back together, work together, and let's move forward. This is Calexico. Calexico belongs to us. We're not going nowhere. So.
All right, guys. Well, thank you
very much.
Thank you for tuning in, for leaving a comment.
Have a good one.
Take it easy.